Okay, I think we're ready to roll. Please have a seat, gentlemen. Good evening for part two of our League of Women Voters Candidates Forum. Again, I'd like to thank Dr. Long for doing a superb job on dealing with a very important topic in our community, and also the panelists. So we're shifting gears here a little bit and moving along for the rest of this evening, where we'll be talking with our candidates for Clark County Sheriff, Clark County Prosecuting Attorney, and the State Superior Court Judge, Department 5. Again, just so you know, the candidates I'm going to start with them in order on the ballot, and I'll rotate the order of the questions. So in this part of the evening, each candidate will have a 1-minute opening statement, then 2 minutes each to answer a question. The questions I mentioned earlier were formed by League of Women Voters members and also members of the community, and then each candidate will have a 2-minute closing to wrap up. So having said that, we'll get started with Chucky Atkins and Shane Gardner, candidates for Clark County Sheriff. Okay, so given that, Mr. Atkins, would you please start with the 1-minute opening, please?
Yes, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for being here tonight and thank the League for hosting this event. I'm a 45-year Clark County resident, 41 years married to my wife. I have 2 adult children, 7 grandchildren. I worked for the Clark County Sheriff's Office for 35 years and worked in just about every aspect of the enforcement branch in that 35 years, working my way up through the agency from a street deputy to a sergeant to a lieutenant to a commander and to the assistant chief, ultimately leading the entire enforcement branch. I have thousands of hours of administrative training in the last 12 years of my career, including command colleges and the FBI National Academy in Quantico, where less than 2% of all police officers are invited to attend. So I believe that I'm well positioned for this position as sheriff. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Gardner, 1-minute opening.
Well, I'd also like to thank everybody for being here tonight in League of Women Voters. You guys have been putting on these nonpartisan events so that people can make educated decisions, and I appreciate the invitation to be here tonight. My name is Shane Gardner. I'm running for Clark County Sheriff. I'm a nonpartisan candidate. I married my high school sweetheart, and we have 2 kids that are going to public school in our community here. I bring a diverse leadership background to my candidacy. I served in the U.S. Army as a non-commissioned officer and as a commissioned officer. I was an Army Ranger, and I'm on several boards within the community. I've been very active in the community in the 16 years I've been with the Sheriff's Office, and I have been trying to solve problems that we have within our organization in the jail specifically, and by the clientele that come within our jail, by working closely with the community to try to prevent people from coming back in through our doors. And I've been doing that throughout my entire career. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's get started with question number 1. And as I mentioned earlier, the candidates were just given the questions just prior to their time coming up here, so they didn't have them in advance to prepare their answers. So the first question I have, I'm going to ask Chuck, Mr. Atkins, to answer this one first. How would you lead the transition to the new department, and what do you see as the top 2 challenges you might be facing, and how would you deal with those?
Well, first of all, I would lead that in a very open and communicative way with the entire agency, and working very closely with the outgoing sheriff, who both Shane and I have had the privilege of working with for many years, and believe that he knows that there's going to be a new sheriff in town, and he is just as interested in making sure that transition is done properly as well. So that I applaud him for. So we would be working very closely with him. I think the 2 top challenges are going to be, for me personally, is how I surround myself with the administrative staff, the leadership within the agency that is going to best lead the agency to where it needs to be. And that's a tough decision that anybody's going to have to make as the sheriff, to bring in those people that the staff and the other employees are going to trust and be willing to work with. And then I think the other situation that strikes me as one that is really important, even though it might seem internal, is the current working conditions for the employees. they're really pretty poor. And by that, I mean not just the facilities themselves, which they are very poor. We're way behind the times in our facilities. But it's in how we manage those people and the opportunities that we give them to speak to us, and how we have chosen to not give them the importance of their input. And so we're going to have to be able to work closely with them, bring them into the fold as to what the transition is going to look like, and seek their input and truly listen to what they have to say, compliment them on the pieces that we implement, and explain to them the pieces that we don't and why. Because anybody that gives their input at least wants to know that they've been heard. And even if you're not going to utilize what it is that they have to bring, they at least want to know that you heard them through. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gardner, I'll repeat the question for you. How would you lead the transition of a new department, and what do you see as the top 2 challenges, and how would you address them?
Well, I think the top 2 challenges, twofold. One is 3 major projects that the Sheriff's Office is going to be faced with: a new records management system, a new jail management system, and new radios for every deputy and every patrol car. And we all know how important communication is to law enforcement, both to those deputies that are on calls in the field, as well as communication within our agency. The second part of that is a new administration. This will be the first new administration in 24 years. That's going to be significant to this agency. So to answer the first, the 3 major hurdles that we have as an agency, because unless we're firing on all cylinders as an agency, we will not be able to effectively and efficiently serve you as our community. And that's our whole purpose, to be here to serve you. So we have a records management system. Just in brief, this is over 40 agencies from the Portland metro area combining their report writing system. We'll be combining with Portland, who has been handwriting reports up until now. We'll be able to see the reports from West Linn and Washington County and other locations. The second is a new jail management system, which cannot be the same company that does our records management system. Our jail management system will cover all of the data and information, booking, where people can be housed, who fights with who. All that information from the jail will be in the jail management system, and that information will have to marry with the records management system. And then the radios, which I already talked about, the importance of that. The only way to effectively address these major obstacles, these major hurdles that we have to clear, is by assembling an effective team, an all-star team of people. And I've already begun doing that. And the Columbian mentioned that earlier. I've selected an individual with a ton of experience to be the number 2 in our agency that'll bring experience from outside to create a diverse team, to take a diverse look at our problems and come up with diverse solutions, because there's strength in diversity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner. For the next question, and I'll start with Mr. Gardner on this one. You may have addressed some of this in your opening statement, but I'll give you another chance to elaborate. What personal qualities do you believe you have to help facilitate this transition?
Well, I think I know that I have decades of diverse leadership experience and deep community roots. So in addition to having a degree in communications, speaking Spanish, having served our country with the 101st Airborne Division as a ranger, as a linguist, being both a commissioned and a non-commissioned officer in the military, being on the board of directors for Leadership Clark County, being the chair of my own neighborhood association, being the co-chair of the Prevent Coalition. I'm rattling these all off fast so that you understand that I'm a part of this community, that I love this community deeply, and I'm involved with it. I don't take my weekends and go get away from here. I use my weekends to attend fundraisers at the Hilton, like the one that we did last weekend for the Humane Society. And you see friends there, and you see people coming together to make a better community. And the sheriff's office can be exactly that. And I believe that the elected office of the sheriff can be a great community leader, bringing people together, because law enforcement reaches into so many other areas of our county that other elected officials don't. Our treasurer stays focused on things that have to do with money, but the sheriff's office, our parks are important to us, our roads are important to us, our neighborhood associations and the livability is important to us. And the sheriff can be an advocate not only locally, but at the state level for change, and that's going to happen in view of what we're facing with mental illness and the way that we are dealing with that in our jail and how we're housing those individuals in our jail. And it's with relationships, which comes from familiarity and trust. And I have that in our community. And with that relationship, I will bring that to our agency, and with a vision, we'll lead this agency into the future. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Gardner. Mr. Atkins, again, what personal qualities do you have to bring to this position?
What I would say, number one, is I am a good communicator. I'm a good listener. That's a huge part of the communication piece. Operationally, I have a broad-based understanding of what the agency is and how it operates. Most importantly, I believe, is throughout my 35 years with the agency and all of the different units that I have managed, I have developed a strong trust base of the employees at the Clark County Sheriff's Office. And I think that's huge, because it's the employees that are going to implement whatever the vision is that whichever sheriff brings to them. They have to trust that person to bring that change to bear. I have a overwhelming amount of support in the endorsements that I have received through the agency from the management, the leadership levels at all areas, including the deputy sheriff guilds and the different people within the agency. They already trust me, so they're willing to work with me, and I find that to be very important. The team leadership that I've been able to show over the years as the commander of the SWAT team for 12 years, a member of UASI, the Urban Area Strategic Initiative for Homeland Security that works at the state and federal level with the Oregon and Washington. I've been part of that coalition of people that put together the protocols and the procedures to protect our community. I've been part of the federal Columbia River Snake River Maritime Project, which was looking at how we protect our waterways. I've already proven through my years with the Gang Task Force the three-prong approach where you have to have, rather than just suppression, the intervention and prevention means to bring together a cohesive group of people to make the changes that we have to have. And so I bring that leadership quality through the experiences that I've been able to generate through my 35 years as I progressed up the ranks of the agency.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Atkins. For the next question, and I'll address this to Mr. Atkins, what vision do you have in looking ahead for, say, the next 10 years? What vision do you have for the Sheriff's Office?
Well, one thing that comes to mind immediately, and this is more for the employees that have to work within the Sheriff's Office, is the modernization of our facilities. And that is something that it's very costly, so it isn't something we can do overnight. But this is something I've already had conversations with the commissioners about, is how do we look 5 and 10 years out to make this happen and to start preparing for this. Our police buildings are just totally inadequate. Our jail is substandard at best and very old in design. We need to change that. Excuse me. I lost my train of thought there for a second. The point that I'm trying to make now is about our broad-based regionalization of our services. We cannot do this on the Sheriff's Office dollars alone. And we need to find ways to work closely with all of our law and justice partners, private and public partners, to better utilize all the resources in Clark County to meet the objectives of what it is to take care of the people of Clark County. This, like I said, is not going to happen overnight, but it certainly is something that we need to be looking out at and pre-planning for. And we do that by having communication groups, citizen advisory groups, people that come together and advise the sheriff what are the areas within their preview that they believe we're not hitting the mark on, and how do we include that in what it is that we're doing so that we can bring everybody together and try to figure out how we're going to pay for and work with the commissioners and the governmental structure that we currently have to get our piece of that pie that we're going to need to expand Clark County where it's going with the ever-growing population and the lack of proper facilities to manage our staff, the jail inmates, the mentally ill. We could just go on and on and on about that.
Thank you. And Mr. Gardner, the same question for you. What vision do you have looking forward for the Sheriff's Office for the next, if you could look 10 years down the line?
Well, one thing I'd really hope that we could do as an agency is increase our diversity. I think that we are not getting applicants from our diverse community, and our current mission statement is that we'll work in cooperation with our diverse community to provide a safe place for everybody to live. But our applicants aren't representing our diverse community, and I'd really like to increase the diversity in our agency. And I think we need to do that by building trust with our community, that we need to create a office where people want to come work with us. They are drawn to us because they know that it's a safe place, that they know that it's a place where everybody is treated fairly. Another thing I think is an internal issue, but that's removing the silos of our agency. Now, we have 3 branches. We have our enforcement branch, we have our corrections branch, and we have our civil support branch. And currently, as an employee that's currently here on vacation so that I can be here tonight, that works every day at the Sheriff's Office, I can tell you that our agency feels very siloed. We do not feel like one team. I want to bring back a one-team concept. I am so proud to wear the uniform of the Clark County Sheriff's Office. We are the oldest law enforcement agency in the state of Washington, and everybody knows with hourly employees, if they come to work for 8 hours, they can do 8 hours of work, or they can do 3 hours of work in 8 hours, or they can do 12 hours of work in 8 hours because they love being here and giving back to this community. And I'd really like to remove the silos in our agency and draw our agency together for one vision and one goal, which is to serve this community as best as we possibly can, because we don't want to enforce the law on you. We want to enforce the law with you. We are your agency. We're here to serve you. And one thing I can tell you is if elected in 10 years, I'll still be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner. So for the next question, and I'll address this to Mr. Gardner first, how would you work with other elected officials and community leaders to ensure that offenders be community contributors rather than reoffenders?
So I alluded to this earlier. I've been doing this. In 2005, I was a detective at the Clark-Skamania Drug Task Force, and I realized that we cannot arrest our way out of the drug problem. And that's when I joined the Substance Abuse Advisory Board, which is a citizen panel appointed by the commissioners to advise the commissioners, our elected officials, on substance abuse issues and mental health issues in this community. We partner closely with the Mental Health Advisory Board. I'm still on that board. We still annually meet with the county commissioners and advise them, me as a citizen, advising them on issues of substance abuse, that we need to partner with all of our elected officials, and that's part of the reason I decided to run as a nonpartisan candidate, because I want to be able to reach across the aisle. It doesn't matter whether somebody's a Republican, a Libertarian, or a Democrat. As a nonpartisan sheriff, I will be able to facilitate discussions, to bring people together, to find solutions. That we've found that the work doesn't get done out on the edges. The work gets done in the middle. And as a nonpartisan sheriff, I'll be able to equally bring people together as a neutral ground to facilitate those discussions, because the sheriff's office alone cannot fix this problem. The community cannot turn a blind eye to people that are turned into our jail. When we get them into our jail, it's not just about housing them. We have to somehow rehabilitate them, and that's why we've changed the name from our custody branch to our corrections branch, because we're taking a new direction in that branch into a way of correcting the behavior of the people that come in so that they don't come back into our jail over and over again. We have to break this generational cycle that happens, and we can't do it alone. We have to do it with our community. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Gardner. Mr. Atkins, again, how would you work with other elected officials and community leaders to ensure that offenders be contributors rather than reoffenders?
Well, I would continue to do what we're currently doing, and that is to keep an open dialogue about truly what the issues are in the community. We can come together and focus on a particular problem, but we really need to identify what those problems are up front, and then identify who it is that needs to take the lead. As the sheriff, something I don't want to get confused with here, the sheriff's job is to protect the community. And there's many ways that we do that, and part of that is through helping those that are incarcerated, et cetera, and I have no issue with that. But the sheriff truly needs to take the role in those programs and in those projects that clearly deal with the safety of the community. We then need to identify and partnership with those that are experts in the field, whether it be the mental illness, the drug and alcohol. We need to continue those partnerships. Allow those professionals to be the ones that take the lead with a clear input and voice on whether it be a panel, whether it be a discussion group, whatever it might be. We need to be party to that too, but we need to understand clearly what other people's roles are and what ours is as the sheriff's office. And so throughout my career, I've worked on many groups, on many panels, with many coalitions of folks trying to seek a solution to an identified problem. And we meet that mark best when we truly focus our talents on what we're good at and allow others to focus their talents and bring those together. And from that, we develop a process that then is to the best benefit of the customer, who is you, the people we incarcerate, the people that we're called to assist on a daily basis.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Atkins. The next question I'll address to Mr. Atkins. Since the jail has a new section or a pod for mentally ill prisoners, what do you think should be the next step in taking care of these prisoners, and how do you think that step would best be accomplished?
Well, we're just taking baby steps right now. As you all know, Clark County, the state of Washington, is one of the worst states in the number of mental health beds that we have to help treat the mentally ill. And when you pick up the phone and you dial 911, you get an operator that says fire, medical, or police. And if it doesn't fit, if you're not on fire and you're not in need of medical, you're getting the police. And we get strapped with a lot of things that really should not be even law enforcement driven. And part of that is the drug abuse and the mental health issues that we currently experience. We are the last line of defense. And so when we get involved, they're now our responsibility, and there's something we have to do. So the jail is where we take them. Our jail is so antiquated that we don't have the facilities to really house them. We are putting an unfair burden on the staff that are in the corrections facility in trying to house mentally ill patients in an open forum, even though we now have a mental illness pod, if you want to call it that, or a section within the agency. It doesn't meet the entire need of the community. So we need to continue our partnerships with those that are the professionals in that field, how we house them in-house with us, whether that be through a jail remodel or whatever we need to do to make that happen. But most importantly, I think as they come through the system, we need to make sure that we're partnering the right resources with them as they leave the jail, so that they don't return. Believe me, we don't really want them back. We would love for them to be treated well, taken care of well, and heal so that they can be contributing community members. We don't want them coming back into our jail. So we just need to continue to operate with those partnerships to identify the right resource for the individuals.
Thank you. And Mr. Gardner, same question for you. What do you think would be the next step in taking care of mentally ill prisoners, and how do you think it would best be accomplished?
Well, excuse the pun, I guess. While we have this captive audience, I think that it's important to continue the wraparound continuum of care. That while we have these people that are within our facility, we need to do our best to treat them with the medications that they need, with treatment services, with resources. We need to prepare them for their way out the door, that it's not just a matter of them spending time in our facility and us trying to get them to behave and be a model citizen while they're an inmate with us. It's about preparing them to exit our facility where there are no more rules, no more doors, no more people telling them when they can come and when they can't come, and when they eat and when they don't eat, that we need to be preparing them to go back into the community and successfully navigate what's out there. This has already started not for our mental health folks, but for just the people that are in our jail with our reentry program. But with mentally ill specifically, because the community really doesn't have another place to send them right now, that we need to recognize that we have a real opportunity while they're in our facility. Is our facility the best place for these people that are mentally ill? No. But that's where they are now. And we have an opportunity to reach out to them and to partner with our community partners, bring them in, and help them, because we are not psychologists, we're not sociologists, that we don't understand all that these people need. But I will tell you that I went into the jail last week and I spoke to a women's group called the Worth Program. And we have a lot of opportunities for training, because I learned while I was there that the women that are there waiting for sentencing aren't enabled to go to programs. While they're waiting for sentencing, while they're waiting to go to trial, which may be 2 months, they just sit in jail all day. They don't get to go to programs while they're waiting. So there are a lot of changes that can happen. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think we'll conclude with one more question, keep us on track this evening, and I'll start with Mr. Gardner. So both of you have been campaigning, I almost said complaining, but campaigning long and hard. So what new things have you learned about our citizens, the county, and about yourself? Let's start with Mr. Gardner.
Well, one thing that I have learned is that there are a lot of opinions, and not everybody agrees on a lot of things. But the fact remains that we're all in this together, that we are all a part of this community. And we just heard a presentation on the charter, which will be on the ballot as well, and people feel about that. But let me tell you what I appreciate about the process for the charter is that people were engaged. People from this community raised their hand and said, I want to get involved in that. Over 100 people. And of the 15 selected from all over our county, from every other political background, these folks came together, and what it points out to me is that consensus isn't where everybody stands up and says, hoorah. But when we get the greatest amount of good for the greatest number of people, everybody isn't always going to be happy. And with jail, when people come to our jail, everybody isn't happy. But I've worked with enough people in recovery that have said that action is what saved their life. I've talked to people that have wanted to talk to police officers to thank them for pulling them over and giving them a DUI because they saved their life. That things that we don't all agree on, we agree that the jail is a necessary evil in this society. Even though I go to work every day trying to work myself out of a job, the reality is that we have people in this community that need to be in jail. That there is a need for some people to be in that facility. But a lot of the people that are in that facility are in there because of parenting or community resources or whatever. And we need to do a better job of helping them to find their way so that they don't come back to our community. But the one thing that I've learned, I will say again, is that everybody's got opinions and they don't all agree. But sometimes the greatest amount of good for the greatest number of people is the answer. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Atkins, what new things have you learned about the community and the county and yourself during this process?
Well, the first thing that came to mind when I saw that question was there are people out there that seem to know me better than I know myself, because I'm reading things that I supposedly said and did that surprised me. So I guess I really shouldn't be surprised about that. But really, in my walk through the county and in all the forums that we've been through and all the behind-the-scenes work that has been being done, I am totally amazed by the number of people in this community that truly care about Clark County. I suspected that all along. I've lived here all my life. But being out there in it and seeing how much people are willing to give to help, whatever the need is very encouraging. I also noticed that as we go through the county and talk with the folks that have to live in the different areas within Clark County, they would like, as much as we would like to help them, see their community increase in the jobs that are here, increase in the livability, the look, and the standard within Clark County. And they're willing to work with leaders that are willing to work for them to get this done. And I think about myself, one of the things I learned the most was I love this county. I love the sheriff's office. That's why I spent 35 years here. But what I realized is there's still more work to be done. Granted, I did retire to run for this office because I knew it would be very difficult, and I know it's hard for Shane to do this while he's working. I was in a position to where I had the choice to be able to step out. But if this was an easy venture, everybody would be doing it. This is an adventure that isn't easy, and I commend Shane and myself for taking the necessary steps to try to represent you, the community, and Clark County in the best way that we possibly can.
Thank you. And now we'll conclude with each of you having a 2-minute statement of your choosing to summarize your points of view. And we'll start with Mr. Gardner for 2 minutes.
Well, thank you. I equally respect the amount of work that my opponent has put into this campaign. We were speaking privately up here, and one thing we both agree on is that we both care very much about this agency and this community. But I think you as voters have two very distinct candidates sitting before you. That there are some things that we do agree on, but there are many issues, many stances, many ideas that we have that are different. So I encourage you to read more about me on my website. It's shanegardner.com. That'll have my experience and questions to some of the other questions that weren't answered here that you can check out. But ultimately, I don't think that this election is about the past. I think it's about the future. And I think law enforcement is changing. In fact, I know it's changing. It's changing technologically. We are trying to keep up with criminals that are doing things with technology. Our community, our neighborhoods are living more in the digital era and social media, and we need to be there. I'm working with our neighborhoods currently in my position. I understand that. We're working to get the sheriff's office on nextdoor.com. That I believe that leadership is different from experience. I think that leadership is a vision. I think that I have a unique skill set in my diversity of leadership that while I haven't been with the agency as long as Mr. Adkins has, in the 16 years that I've been here, I've accomplished a lot. And in the time that I wasn't here, in the Army and in the community, I've been very involved, and I've built relationships, and I've networked with this community, and I'm ready to go to work as a sheriff of this agency and enforce the law with this community. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Atkins, to summarize for 2 minutes.
Well, I too would like to thank all of you again for being here. These forums have been plenty and repetitive, but it has given you an opportunity to understand who we are. What I would say to you, you are going to have a new sheriff, and I believe that I am still a viable, even though Shane would mention and lead one to believe that maybe I'm too old. I kid with him about that. I'm still young, and I still have what it takes to do the right thing for the citizens of this community. I have the experience. And I'm not bragging when I say I have all of these accolades and different things that I've done. I've just been blessed with the opportunity to be here 35 years and learn on the job as I went, to have a sheriff and an administrative staff above me that trusted me to handle some of the most difficult jobs in the sheriff's office, and given me the opportunity to either succeed or fail at it. And fortunately for me, I did very well at them, and I did succeed at them. And with that comes experience. I can hit the ground running based on the experience that I lead through myself and surround myself internally with very good people that I believe have worked hard in preparation to be the leaders of the future of this agency. People that I have managed, people that I have already led, that are willing to follow me and have come to me and asked me way back to be running for this position knowing that it was coming open because they're ready to move forward as well. My experience in my leadership, proven experience in leadership, will be ready to work the day the job opens up, and we'll move forward. And when I leave this agency the next time, it will be in the hands of people that will run it for for the next 20 or 30 years. Thank you.
Great. Thank you both so very much for being gracious and being here this evening. Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you.